now talk a bit about the hostages, because Israel has raised the number of hostages being held in Gaza to at least 242. Authorities are still working to identify the remains of dozens of victims who were murdered inside Israel. Well, my next guest hid for hours in a safe room while Hamas terrorists went on a murderous rampage through her Kibbutz Alumim. She was saved by a civilian guard who took care of the kibbutz residents, and without whom the death toll would have been significantly higher. Esther Marcus is with us now. Thank you for joining us, Esther. What a remarkable story. First of all, we're very glad that you are alive and well. Tell us a bit about what happened that terrible day.
Well, 6:35 in the morning, I remember opening my back door thinking that I was going to sit outside and have a cup of tea. And crazy rockets, and we're kind of used to rockets, but not like this. It was obvious straight away that something was very different, very different happening. I ran into the safe room where my husband, I'm a bit confused, my son and his new wife were, and ran in together with us the rest of my family. That's my daughter, her husband, and 2 babies. And then we received texts telling us that we should lock our doors, turn off all the lights, highly irregular, obviously. And then we understood that there are terrorists already infiltrated into our kibbutz. We didn't 100% know what was going on, but it was incredibly scary. This followed by shooting, which was obviously very nearby. We've already become so accustomed to the rockets that we know, even our children know, to differentiate between cannons and bombs from ourselves when we attack Gaza, or rockets from their side. So we understand all of that. But this was shooting, constant shooting outside our house, which meant that we had to stay quiet. Which, with 2 babies, as you can imagine, is
you had 2 little babies with you. What did you do to keep the babies quiet?
So we're religious kibbutz, we're religious people, but it was obvious to us that we had to open up the computer and allow the 2-year-old to watch films. And my daughter held the baby's a month. She just kept feeding her and holding her in order that she wouldn't get to a stage that she needed to cry. I'm a resilience worker. I'm trained to help people, and straight away I had what's called a hotline. So I was getting phone calls from all over the country about what was going on. So I had to talk really quietly. So at the same time that we're working, we're stressed out. We're trying not to cause the babies to feel too much anxiety. But I've spoken to many families on my kibbutz and many other kibbutzim that they put their children in the cupboard. They put them in a drawer, left them open. The fear, it was just horrific. And even then, I don't think we fully understood then what was going on, to what extent. Although I knew that there was a battle, I was receiving phone calls from people all over the country looking for their children who had gotten lost in the massacre. They were at the party. And people phoning me, telling me I'm looking for my son. Like, who do I phone? Who do I get in touch with? Chaos was enormous. From that, I then understood that the terrorists were already out right around us. They were everywhere. I received a phone call from somebody telling me that they were online with their son, that he'd locked himself in one of the petrol stations. He'd managed to get himself into the bathrooms. He was lying next to somebody who was injured. Could I please send help? I tried to phone someone who could get to him, and then I was told, there's no way, Esther, we can't get to anybody. It was just this terrible feeling of helplessness. And at the same time, we just had to keep praying. We're going to get through this. We're going to push. Regarding the babies, straight away, the Holocaust came into my mind with what people went through then with babies and what people had to do. Just shocking.
And we know now, don't we, Esther, that the terrorists had no mercy, be it children, women, babies. I mean, it must be hard to stop your mind going to a very dark place, about what could have happened.
No, absolutely. We had 17 workers from Nepal and Thailand, workers. They were massacred, and 2 were kidnapped. So we don't know what's happening with them. but we're very much in touch with their families and taking care of them. When they came with us to the hotel that we were evacuated to, and we organized a translator and a historian to write down their story. There's one in hospital. Every day somebody goes from our kibbutz to visit them. And interestingly enough, there's even a WhatsApp group. And I received a message telling me, "You'll be amazed, Esther. The Thailandi workers are asking, when can they come back? They want to help us put our kibbutz back together again," which is really phenomenal. Well, and we lost two of our own children. One, a soldier who straight away, as soon as the attacks began, he jumped in his father's car. He didn't have to. He wasn't called up straight away. He just, that sense of, I have to go and help my fellow soldiers. He's an officer. He jumped in a car, and we knew later that he ran into terrorists. And another one of our children who lives on the kibbutz next door in Kfar Aza, he was killed. An older man, a bullet went straight through him. Somehow he survived. Our army, as you mentioned before, the civilian army, they went out to fight. We're talking about men aged 30, 40, even 50. They didn't have time to do anything, but they got out there. They started shooting. They protected us, and 3 were injured. One literally fought for his life. Thank God. He's actually, his parents are English. Thank God a million times he's okay.
Thank goodness.
Another one fought with 2 bullets in his legs. He just kept fighting. It was, when you're fighting for your home, it's a whole different ball game for what you're trained for, to fight in the army. It's just non-stop. As I'm watching you, this is my kibbutz. Here, what you're seeing now, this is from the special unit that turned up, and they fought together with our Kitat Kononut.
What time did they arrive? What time did they get there?
It's not yet clear. There was some that came at 9. It started already at 7:30. Some managed to get through 9, 10 o'clock. Some others only turned up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. These guys are from the Shabbos, from the prison. The prisons in Israel, they have a special unit. And it was really important for us to thank them, obviously. But at the same time, as a therapist and a worker, I also have to work to make sure that people aren't going to go through re-traumatization. What you're seeing now, oh my goodness, this is actually the first time I'm seeing this. We have 3 older men, gentlemen, who sat in our safe room, and they watched the screens, and this is what they were watching so that they could guide our civilian army and tell them exactly where the terrorists were. These are the terrorists that came to kill me. They came to kill my family. They came to kill my kibbutz. I'm actually a little bit shocked because I wasn't aware that I was going to be seeing this now, but that's okay. Resilience, we push through. We have to push through. I have friends who have been killed. I have friends whose family have been kidnapped. And it's just so important to keep.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Esther. I mean, we've had, so much evidence. Israel is still identifying the bodies of people who lost their lives. The world press has been here going around the kibbutzim. Yet still you see people actively trying to deny what happened or downplay it. The Queen of Jordan comes to mind for one. But, there are journalists in the UK, no names, giving a platform for 2 hours for someone denying what happened October the 7th. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I know as a resilience worker that I have to protect myself, and I have to be available to the people that I'm working with and do my job. So I actually don't watch television, and I don't particularly listen to the news either. I figure there are other people, they have to do their job. That's too shocking for me. One thing is silence. Even silence, you're already a partner of that massacre, and denying it. The responsibility on you is just humongous. I've been watching the scenes in England, the Palestinians there hiding behind freedom of speech. They're violent people. They don't just want my land. They want all our lives, and they always have done. And as I explained to a journalist, as you mentioned before, I was interviewed by someone from Australia, and I explained to her that we always worked hand in hand with Palestinians. We had workers who came into our kibbutz, and when they weren't allowed to come across anymore, a man in our kibbutz went every week to bring them food, to take care of them. We have another man in our kibbutz. He volunteers to bring Palestinian families, children who need medical help. He brings them into the country, takes them to the hospitals in the center. We made a point of raising our children not with hatred and with belief and hope that the government would come up with a plan, the international people would come up with a plan. Yeah. And she also tried to put words in my mouth of, is it eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth? And I explained to her that that's not my language. I don't speak in those terms. But the Israeli government cannot take responsibility for what is going on in Palestine anymore. The governments around the world, the United Nations, the Arab world has to step up and figure out what they're going to do and put them in Egypt, give these people homes. We already gave back the land of Gush Katif, as you know, we all know. Did they carry on making it a flourishing farm that they could have done? They could have made it beautiful. Palestine could be beautiful, but they're not interested in that. It's Hamas are just out to destroy.
Yeah, and we've heard them say they would do it again if they could. We heard one of the Hamas officials saying he would do it again if he could. Well, Esther, I mean, we're glad you're here to tell your story, and thank goodness for those little babies and your family, and we look forward to seeing you rebuild your kibbutz bigger and better than before. Good luck to you, Esther. Thank you so much. Esther Marcus. Incredible.